What we're going to try to do is reframe strength a little bit because for a long time, and we've all kind of done this at Men's Health, strength has been very much about the physical. And this is a very physically imposing bunch. Like if I had to go play 5-on-5, I would take this. I would take this group and go 4-on-5 with them, and we'd be good. But strength in this era now we're starting to talk about mental strength, emotional strength, and how those things dovetail. And all of these guys are much more than physical strength. There's a level of versatility to it, and we're starting to see how that crosses over, and it's becoming very important to us as a society. So I think what I want to do right now is just start and go down the line. I'm really curious what all of you guys, and we can start with Terry, or we can start with Jacob maybe, just how you define strength and how that definition has evolved, throughout your playing career and throughout the years.
Yeah, I think at a younger age, it was when I started playing, I guess, in the last 10, 12 years, was always getting stronger every summer and hitting new numbers and feeling great. And I think that's evolved into a little bit of, I guess, less just pushing the numbers and more of, injury prevention. How you're going to feel when you're done playing. Like, I think your mind mentally getting away from the game, and like painting is something that I found that I think has given me an outlet that kind of just, it's a place for me to be confident, I guess, build confidence and just kind of be free to be myself. And there's always the judgment of playing and fans and people that see the sport, I guess, and then the time away. Painting for me has been just kind of something that I can go do by myself, and I don't really care what anybody's opinion is. It's kind of something for me, and when I'm proud of it and I think it's done, I like it, it's something that I feel good about, and that's, I think, breeds confidence, and that's, to me, a healthy mind for me. And obviously the physical side, more confident you can be in your body, the healthier you're going to be.
Terry, how about you?
Well, no, I'm sorry. I had to do some peck pops for you. But I got to tell you, man, I'm 56 years old, and I came up in an era where there were no hotel gyms. Like, fitness was strange. I remember I actually ordered my first workout book from the back of a comic book, that they had an ad like tired of getting sand kicked in your face, and I put in like $1 in an envelope and got back a guy drawing drawings of a person doing exercises. And I really, really, really wanted to be strong. And for personal reasons. And one of the personal reasons is my father was very abusive. He abused my mom, and he was very abusive to everybody in our family. And one day I thought I would have to kill him. And this is at a young age. I'm like probably 10 years old. And all I knew was he was a giant. The way he walked around the house, it was just booming. And I just felt like, I have to be stronger than that. So even as a young kid, I remember just putting my feet underneath the bed and just doing sit-ups until I got cramps. You can look at all my earliest videos. I was always making muscles, always just trying to be strong because I knew somehow that was going to be my path. But what happened was, I became a victim of the whole bro science thing where that was everything. Then it went from having gyms to really overdoing it in every way possible, because I ended up playing in the NFL, but that was like synonymous with steroid use and this and all this stuff where people were really just taking it to a whole nother level that wasn't healthy, which is the point of being fit, is to be healthy. So, and I never took steroids, and I have to say that's probably one reason why I didn't do as good in the NFL as I thought I wanted to. But I did take it to extremes where I just couldn't stop working out. I didn't know. To me, recovery was weakness. The phrase "don't sleep" was for real. Like that meant you were doing great. And now at 56, you realize, no, sleep, sleep, please. And recovery it's all about what this is. I think now it's a watershed moment we realized that rest is strength. Whereas before, man, I would never stop working out. I'd work out 2 times a day, 7 days a week, and then feel like you're still not doing enough. I had the wrong messages in so many ways, and it worked that way also spiritually. Hey, how you doing? Spiritually, it worked that way. Emotionally, it was all extremes, and it's never good. Extremes are never, ever good.
So we have kind of two different ideas of strength I think you guys are both talking about. You're talking about, obviously, art. Jacob, you're talking about rest. Terry. Dr. Jazz, I'm curious, when you see people come into your practice, are guys understanding those things, or are they still caught up in, you know, the early ideas of just like, hey, go hard, and how much do you have to talk them down from just, hey, go hard?
Yeah. So I think a lot has changed. I'm Terry's age. I grew up in the 80s, played baseball. So for me, at the D1 level, a lot about baseball is about if you could hit the ball and you could hit it hard. It wasn't so much about this brute strength. When I went to medical school as an orthopedic surgeon, we're at the top of the food chain in medical school. So to get into orthopedics, it was all about, can you bench 300 pounds? How much can you squat? Are you the biggest jock there? And a lot has changed since then. And a lot has changed in the way my patients come in and what injuries they have. There's a lot less of this brute strength, this 300 club, which was very popular, benching 300 pounds, squatting a certain amount. It's sort of evolved into more functional strength. Can you do a certain amount of pull-ups, push-ups, squats, and can you get up from the floor as you age? I see patients from 15, 12 years old, all the way up to their 80s. And you see what changes in each of them as they adapt to their changing bodies over time. And some, they lift heavy weights when they're younger and they have injuries later on. And you can see they're frustrated as they try to do the same things. Other people adapt. They modify. They go into more functional body strength, body weight exercises, and you can see that adaptation. That's certainly what I've seen. You know, with the adaptation of CrossFit, a change from just benching pure weight and pushing pure weight to more of a functional strength where you're doing body weight exercise.
Totally disagree with you. I think it's really, really important if you're going to do surgery on me that you can bench 300 pounds. It is interesting too. Just I think thinking about the other ideas of strength too, that the stereotype has always been that physical level of strength. And you talked about it earlier, Jacob. You said the word judgment, right, when it comes to people and art, which I found interesting. And can both of you, I feel like you've both faced different stereotypes. To you, Jacob, as kind of an athlete, and you have to meet certain metrics to be an athlete, right? And you, Terry, as an actor, right? And you're the jacked actor with the can do the cool chest thing I got to figure out one day. But can you talk about like how you kind of thread your art through, and for you, Terry, obviously drawing, how you thread that into your persona when the entire world, for you, Jacob, wants you to score a bajillion goals, and for you, Terry, wants you to, you know, do the chess thing?
Yeah, for me, I think as I've gotten older, I think, especially in New York with the bigger market, the hockey side has always kind of been this other side of me, and it's more of an angry, more violent person. And I think I've kind of had to separate the two, and who I really am isn't really the guy who shows up on the ice and is mean and nasty. And I think the art's kind of given me a way to kind of be my true self a little bit while still loving hockey and physicality, and just kind of blocks out all the other noise that I really don't care to listen to and people's opinions and all that. So yeah, for me, I think it's just a way to kind of be true to myself and something I enjoy doing, and as long as I enjoy it, I'm going to continue to do it.
Well, for me, you know, growing up in Flint, Michigan, during the heyday of, well, the demise of the auto industry and then the rise of the crack epidemic, I had to pretend a lot. The one reason, again, besides what was going on in my own house, outside of my house, it was gangs and drugs and different things. And I knew that by being an athlete, it was going to protect me. A lot of times, a lot of the drug dealers wouldn't talk to. They would feel like, man, don't mess with him. He's going to play somewhere, you know. But this was the wild thing is I was an artist. I was left-handed, right brain, painting, drawing. I won awards. I got scholarships for my art as a painter, as a sketch artist. And a lot of times I had to fake as if I didn't have that ability in order to get to, I'd have my portfolio and the whole thing, but I'd act like I was, on my way to football practice, but I was on my way to art class. And so, but one thing I knew never to do is I said, I'm going to continue to do both. I never gave up my art, ever. And there was times I hid it, but I never gave it up. And I'm very, very thankful for that. Because I was in a world where everyone determined who was smartest by the bench press. You literally ran companies by how much you benched. But if you look at it now, you see how silly that is as regards to physical strength does not equate, doesn't have anything to do with intelligence. But in the world I was in, might made right. And thank God, I think that is changing in a big, big way. I think in regards to modern masculinity, in regards to the way we interact in this world now, it's not how you can push, how great you can push your way around, And I chose to take an artist view. A way for me was just to, you can be a landscaper or you can be a landscape artist. And with art always improves everything it touches. So being an artist and taking that framework, I do that about my own body, I do that about my mind, my spirituality, my world, and it slowly improves everything. So that's because, that might be a long answer, but it's just the way I've really chosen to navigate this world in a positive way, as opposed to manipulating and pushing people around and using your strength in a bad way. Use it for good.
I'm curious, doctor, if there are there any discernible benefits to, again, we talk about physical strength, but to finding that balance and kind of utilizing some other parts of our brain and developing that mental, emotional strength, developing those art qualities for ourselves?
Yeah, so for me, I didn't have the ability to, do art certainly like these guys. So for me, a big influence and a change for me was seeing Royce Gracie in one of the early UFC fights as this very small guy taking on these behemoth monsters and being able to submit them and beat them. And I saw that, and that was a big defining moment for me, that someone who's small can use their brains and their functional strength to beat a much bigger and a much potentially stronger opponent in the way we thought of strength. Oh, this guy's big, you can't push him over. But if you use your brain and you're able to use skill and some of your talent to defeat your opponent, to me that was huge. And that changed the way I thought about this aspect of strength, physicality, that there's definitely a mental component to it and the mind-body connection and using your brain. And Brazilian Jiu-jitsu, with all the moves, requires this mental mind-body connection to be effective.
One thing, obviously, a lot of what you guys are saying is really strong in terms of, balancing things out. But we live in kind of a really weird era for all that, right? Because, I think 3 of the 4 of us, with the exception of Jacob, and that's why Jacob is sane, have a tracker on, right? And so there's more metrics that can measure classic strength than ever. And so it's really easy to fall into 300-pound bench press. What's my HRV? What's this number? What's that number? How do you, in this era, you can't really quantify, mental strength yet, and you can't really quantify art. So how do you guys stay out of the trap of obsessing over the numbers? And in an era, both of you are measured all the time, right? So how do you stay out of the trap of obsessing over the numbers while still, in the case of 3 of the 4 of us, appreciating them or utilizing them on some level?
Yeah, I think that there's been a lot of changes over the last 10 years that I've been playing. I think there's still, in 3 months, I got to go to training camp and do exercises, and I'm going to be putting a list with every other player and where do I rank, and that's a real thing that I still have to be aware of. That is my job, but that's changed a little bit too. Now there's numbers that they can track your workload and try to get you more rest. There's more emphasis on recovery, and Yeah, I think like the HRV, all those kind of things have come in, but then it's also stuff that comes into your mind. And for me, like if I wake up and whatever, had a bad night's sleep, like I almost don't want to know that if I wake up on a game day and it's like, oh, you slept bad. I'm kind of like, oh, what do I do? I got to take a longer nap. Like I'd almost don't want to know. And sometimes over information, I found it bothers me more than just not knowing and going about my life and using it when I guess it suits me and I can benefit from it, but knowing when to stay away from it too.
You're way too rational to get a whoop deal out of this. Terry?
No, I totally agree with what he just said. I mean, over information is horrible, horrible. You know, I have a band and I, you know, check all my vitals and all that stuff. But there's a point where you become a slave to it, and you have to be very, very careful. Where you know, this is the amazing thing is, guys, placebos work. You know, the thing is that sugar pill, if it's as good as modern medicine, it gets, if the modern medicine is as good as a placebo, you can approve it. Because nothing beats a placebo, you know, and the numbers don't account with a placebo. I like to look at it almost like after my NFL training and the whole thing, my job in entertainment. You go by ratings. Does ratings really prove what's better? Because it's all subjective. You know what I mean? So I've had performances that nobody saw, that totally bombed right off, and now they're considered modern day classics. I mean, who's to say? What is this? It's almost like if you went by the numbers and determined who won and who lost, you're really making a mistake. And I think that works physically by looking at, and again, what gets measured gets done, which is beautiful. It helps you to find out where you're lacking, but to use it as a barometer all the time is a big, big mistake.
As an orthopedic surgeon at a major training program in the United States, we interview tons of applicants. It's a very selective process. So there are numbers involved, there's no doubt. You know, their grades, how they do on tests. But one of the things that we often discuss amongst the people who are selecting is those intangibles. How can you get the person that's going to have, and what I call it is grit, that quality that's going to make them succeed and do better. And you could apply this to strength, you know, function and whatever sport you do, but it's that grit that some of those residents that were maybe, that we ranked out of, we have 14 people that we train, graduate per year in a huge program. It's a 5-year training program. So that grit, they come in and we say, well, they didn't have the best numbers, but they're the best resident that we graduated that year because they cared. They pushed themselves to the limit. And that's a hard thing that a watch is going to be able to quantify, and it can't.
So we have one number that I'm going to have to watch, and that's the 124 on the clock back there. In the remaining time, I'm just kind of curious, at Men's Health, we try really hard to be actionable. Do each of you guys have one tip for everybody, just in terms of, it feels like a lot of this discussion is about, and the discussion of strength overall is about balance, right? Do each of you guys have like one tip for everybody, just in how they can maintain balance between hitting the numbers in the gym that will help, right? In terms of overall strength and bone density and all the stuff we write about, but at the same time finding that level of art and creativity and not falling into the trap of just the numbers.
You got one? I do. I do. My big thing is I believe that competition is the opposite of creativity. Competition is all about comparing yourself to everybody else and looking at them and then judging yourself. I truly believe you just need to be creative with yourself. Don't compete with other people, especially when it comes to your own physical fitness. You have your own speed, you have your own thing. I know for me, even as you get older, you see people start to run past you, you lose heart. But the thing is, now I learned to say to myself, I'll see you at the finish line. These are things that you can't run uphill with downhill thoughts. And the thing is always, always talk great to yourself, always speak wonderful things to yourself, because these uphill thoughts will take your mind-body connection is real. It will take your body exactly where it needs to go, and you need to do this all on your own without comparing yourself to anybody else.
So basically having some self-talk in there in addition to just looking at the numbers.
Yeah, I would say just be fair to yourself. I think there's obviously not enough, and there's way too much. I think finding the balance that you're comfortable with, and everybody's going to be a little bit different. But there's 20-year-olds coming into the league now, like younger players, and I'm obviously a little bit older, not too old yet, but like, things have changed. Like I don't work out the same way I did when I was 20 years old, but that's okay. Like you find what works for you and how you keep progressing and be your best player, your best self, and not worry as much what other people are doing. You're obviously paying attention, and you're competitive, and there are your peers that you're playing against and competing against. But find what's best for you and be confident in your own thoughts on what you want to achieve.
Dr. Jazz.
Yeah, I would say don't stay comfortable. Try new things. Who cares if you lose? Just try new things. You'll develop new muscle patterns, and it works. And it's okay to come in last, but you've tried something that you've never done before. That's my advice.
So basically strength is no longer static in terms of numbers, but it's more like a journey. And on that, Terry's got to do the chest thing one more time, and then we're going to get off stage.
Happy to close with that.